You are listening to Season 2 of The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, the short and often daily podcast in which I chronicle my life and attempt to be a writer by writing daily. Sometimes. Hello, you are... Oh, goodness. Well, that was a mess. I've just got tongue-tied at the beginning. Let's start again. Hello. It is Sunday the 6th of April 2025 and you're listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. And I've had a strangely down day today. I don't have them very often, but I've just struggled to really get into today. But that's fine. It doesn't happen as often as it used to. And so I've been racking my brains for something to talk about now, because I've done no writing. I know I've set myself goals of by the end of tomorrow getting to a certain point with still life. Well, if I don't, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I just haven't been in the mood to do anything today. To be honest, I've been very jet lagged. I slept through most of the afternoon. I woke up stupidly early this morning, slept through most of the afternoon. Yeah, just been really struggling to get into today. So I don't know really what I'm going to talk about. So I've chosen a really weird random subject. So in 1992, the BBC had this idea to replace the Monday, Wednesday and Friday slot that is occupied by EastEnders on the Tuesday and the Thursday. They had the idea of getting rid of the Terry Wogan interview show, which was called Wogan, and replacing it with a brand new soap opera they'd dreamed up. And it was going to be filmed in Spain. And it was originally going to be called Little England. And it was going to be about a load of expats living in an enclave in Spain. And it was about their lives in a little England they'd created for themselves. And somewhere between idea and execution, it all got a bit messed up. So because of what was going on politically at the time, it was decided that they should have some European characters. So as well as the English families, actually there's only one English family really, but as well as all the English characters, they've got a Spanish family and a French family. And where do they come from? I can't remember the race of the other family was, but it was somewhere in Europe. And so the guy who originally created it was like, okay, this isn't the original idea. That's not going to work. And then lots of really smart ideas, like it was supposed to launch in September, and the BBC suddenly wanted it in June, which meant they were literally so they built an enormous outdoor set. I mean, it's very impressive. So bearing in mind this is a TV show, rather than have to film on location, they built a whole 16 home it was called La Terrazzas, but it was a 16 house. Well, there were 2 villas and 16 flats around this pool, and it was owned presumably by somebody British, and it was all British tenants who lived in the houses there. Just up from that was a shopping centre, and again they built the whole shopping centre complete with restaurants, bars, coffee shops, video rental store, TV selling store, health spa, loads of stuff. And this was all built for real. And then they had the old town, which had a church and more accommodation for the different families and stuff. So it was an amazingly, ambitious idea. But as I say, they got told, so literally when they started filming, because they had to get episodes transmitted for June, 3 months ahead of what they were planning. So they were literally filming scenes on the sets that were finished and choosing to shoot other scenes once those sets were built. And they were literally still building the sets, and they weren't sets actually. So unlike EastEnders, I don't know if you know, but EastEnders is filmed, there's the Albert Square outdoor set, but the interiors are studio sets somewhere else. Whereas with Eldorado, they literally filmed in the houses. So they actually built, it was a bit like Brookside. Brookside in its day was actually, they actually built Brookside Close and filmed inside the houses. There were no studio sets there. So it was very, very ambitious, but they made quite a few mistakes. So they decided to cast some young, inexperienced actors, which was fine if they weren't going to be the centre of attention. And that was the plan. They were going to have these young guys, but they weren't really going to give them any storylines until they got a bit of acting experience, till they'd done some stuff. And then literally the first storyline is this guy in his 40s has married this young girl in her 70s, is 17, sorry. Bunny and Fizz. Fizz is the girl. And she was a very young, inexperienced actor. She wasn't particularly good, but she wasn't particularly experienced. It certainly wasn't her fault. And suddenly she becomes the central storyline for the first 30 episodes. And she isn't strong enough to carry it. If she'd been a more background character, which was the plan for these newbies, it would have worked. But no, so everybody's immediately like, oh, she can't act. And there were some other really quite poor actors in there at the beginning. And it was basically got low ratings. It was a bit of a laughing stock. And so it actually caused the person running it, Julia Smith, who was the first producer and the creator of EastEnders, I think she had a breakdown because of the amount of shit she was given over the show. And it wasn't her, you can't pull a programme forward 3 months and expect everything to work. I'm sorry, but you can't. And so they gave a new producer, fired a load of the actors, wrote them out. In some ways, some of them got proper send-offs, some of them didn't. And it got better. And the reason I'm interested is because it's known as one of the BBC's big failures. Well, they're showing it on You and Dave, which is one of our satellite channels now. Sorry, You and Drama. And I don't think it's too bad because it's only 156. I know it sounds a lot, but in soap opera terms, 156 episodes is nothing. I mean, that's 1 year of the bill at the point where they were producing 3 episodes a week. And I'm watching it, and yeah, it had a dodgy start, but it's actually getting quite good now. You're starting to care for some of the characters. And it is actually a shame that it didn't go on for a bit longer because there is some really quite interesting stuff in there. It'd have been fascinating to see how Brexit affected those characters and that situation, for example. So, and it was only cancelled for political reasons. So yes, it started off getting piss poor ratings, but by the time it got going, it was getting decent ratings. But the controller of BBC One had changed and he wanted to basically make a point of how bad his predecessor was. His predecessor was the one who commissioned Eldorado, so he made a big point of cancelling it. And do you know what? Watching it now, I think that's a shame because I think, okay, I don't think if it had run for years and years and years, I don't think I would be the target audience because I don't really like soap operas. But I'm watching the amount of sheer effort put into building the place and some of the really interesting storylines they had in the first year. And everybody goes on about woke television. They had a disabled character as a regular character, back in 1992. She's actually quite famous. She ended up being in The Office with Ricky Gervais. And I think the actor's called Julie Fernandez. She's absolutely great in this. She's like 17 or 18 in this. She's actually one of the characters you genuinely empathise with. So yeah, it's not my kind of thing. I'm only watching it because it's perceived as a failure. But what I will say is this. It was a failure, but I do think it was a noble failure. So there we go. Anyway, I've only talked about that because it's the only thing I can think of to talk of because I've just watched just an episode where somebody unexpectedly drowns in a bath. And I managed to make that last 8 minutes. Sorry, it's not about writing. Hopefully I'll be in a better mood to talk about writing tomorrow. Sorry about the waffling on. I should have put a disclaimer at the start saying you don't have to listen to this today. It's a load of old crap. Anyway, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. For more information about what I'm writing, go to linktr.ee/Richard Writes, capital R, capital W, where you can find details of my website and social media. I may see you there.